Hi, I'm Billy Gwaltney, and this is the CYA Podcast. This show is for the physician who understands the importance of protecting everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Each week, I'll bring you tips and advice to help you cut through the clutter and misinformation and show you exactly what you need to preserve your income and way of life. If you're ready to achieve the peace of mind that only financial security can bring, let's get started. Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Cover Your Assets podcast. This is your host, Billy Gwaltney, and as always, I'm happy to be with you today. Today, we're going to cover Principal's Benefit Update Rider, how it works, and what your involvement is in making it work. The Benefit Update Rider is a rider that when you go through medical screening, if you're healthy-ish, to get the best definitions, the true specialty on occupation coverage, Principal will allow you to have the ability or the right to increase coverage in the future as your income grows. And so what's important about that is that most people, as their income increases, they're going to want their coverage to reflect a higher amount, right? And so $5,000 a month is what most trainees get while they're in training. But once you become an attending, if your income is significantly higher, then that's usually not enough. Principal will let you potentially bump up to as high as $30,000 or $20,000, depending on your specialty. And there's a formula that they use to calculate how much coverage you can have. So they won't let somebody automatically bump up to $20,000 just because they want to or willing to pay a higher rate. They really don't want people overinsured if they can help it. And so when the Principal adds this benefit update rider, what it does it allows you to increase coverage every 3 years. You would provide, and at this 3-year interval, you provide updated information related to your income, and the underwriter confirms any additional coverage you have available to you at that point. The coverage increases do not require updated medical screening. That's the first really important feature. So you go through the initial medical screening as a trainee once, and then when you go to increase in the future, you don't have to be as healthy then as you used to be. You don't have to answer any additional medical questions. Also, the additional coverage would include the same trainee discount that's on the original policy. So even though you do the increase perhaps years after being graduating from training and now you're an attending, you're always going to get that trainee discount on the increase. That's another important feature to that. In exchange for that, the way Principal does this, I say in exchange because it's a bit of a trade-off. When the 3-year schedule comes up and you provide that additional information, whatever additional coverage you're eligible for, Principal requires you to accept at least 50% of that increased amount, or they're going to take the benefit update rider off of the policy. And so they really want you to keep pace with where your income is. They want you to make sure that your coverage is staying on track. And if you didn't want any more, so if you had $5,000 a month and 3 years from now you're eligible for $15,000 a month, they're going to say, well, you need to at least bump up to $10,000 a month. And if you don't do that, at least $10,000, then we're going to require you to stay where you are forever. Now, you can always increase coverage with them or a different company. You would just have to go back through medical screening and get approved for it. And it likely wouldn't include the trainee discount and so forth. So it's just more complicated. And so removing the rider, again, would mean that anytime you wanted to revisit increasing your coverage, you would have to be screened again medically and would likely involve the insurance physical, which if you're a trainee, usually the insurance physical is waived. So when you go to increase coverage again, you would have to jump through more hoops to get it. Now, there are exceptions to the 3-year rule or schedule that Principal will allow for an increase soon. One of those, there's certain, I guess you could call them triggering events or life events. One of those would be graduation from training and becoming an attending. Income increases significantly, usually by 50% or more. They'll let you increase sooner than they would not require you to wait to the 3-year interval. Also, if you are at an employer where you had group long-term disability and you no longer have it, you switch employers and you don't have group LTD, that's another triggering event where they'll let you increase sooner. It's always good to check with, and we're in touch with our clients regularly, to check with your broker, hopefully it's me, but whoever it is, to anytime your income goes up or you switch jobs, just to make sure that hey, is there more coverage that I could access? This private coverage is way more valuable than the employer coverage. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the insurance broker. I'm saying that because I've seen what happens at time of claim. Our clients, we do have clients on claim. They collect from their private coverage usually as expected, but a lot of times they never see any benefit from their employer policy. So at the time of claim, you're going to want to get your hands on as much of this private coverage as you can get. So the downside to this benefit update is that it can hit you at a time when you're not, you're overwhelmed, really busy, don't want to deal with looking into additional coverage, but your anniversary's up, that 3-year interval is time to do this, and you have to go through these steps. But it's important to do this to make sure that your coverage is where it needs to be, because you and your family are going to count on that if it's ever needed. Now, the steps that are involved for you at this 3-year interval or anytime you want to increase is you e-sign a form. Usually you do it electronically. We send the link, and Principal will send you a link to do that. We can do it with our clients. We sometimes can send it through DocuSign. It just depends on the situation. So you just e-sign a form really quick. You need to provide an updated snapshot of what your annualized income is currently. Okay. And then you need to provide the details for any group long-term disability you have through your employer. And that means providing the percentage of income covered and the maximum monthly benefit cap. Every group LTD policy that I've ever seen has a cap on it where they'll say we'll pay 60% up to $10,000 per month or $15,000 per month. That information will be on there. Your HR should have that handy for you. Again, sometimes the timing of this will hit you at a time when you don't want to deal with it. It's a nuisance. You don't want to bother with it. It especially becomes heightened if a client doesn't know what that information is. They don't know if they have group LTD. They don't know what the details of it are. And it's really important that you know that anyway. And so I don't mean to talk like a parent or anything. Maybe just consider me a brother, where I'm like, that's kind of in this business, in seeing how the insurance world works and the financial world works whenever everything comes crashing down, and making sure that these details are correct. You want to make sure that you know what you have. And so this information should be handy for you to be able to get. But once you get it, keep it. We keep it on file too, and we can help you reference that in the future as well. But it really shouldn't take you very long to confirm what that information is. And Principal will let you know and let us know if you're eligible for more coverage. Now, if we do not go through this process, if you come up on this 3-year anniversary and you just forget about it, delete it, don't want to do it, that rider is going to be removed from the policy. Okay. So the rider's removed from the policy if you don't accept at least 50% of what you're eligible for. And the rider is also removed if you never respond and don't provide the information, even if nothing has changed. So you could be earning the same exact income at the same exact employer with the same exact group LTD. You're not eligible for more coverage, and you still need to provide that information on this 3-year interval for the benefit update rider to stay on your policy. And then if you're not eligible for more, it just rolls forward to another 3-year period. And some might say, well, why does that matter? If I'm already maxed out, then why do I need to bother? Well, because things change. Employers change, income changes, needs change. And we've had clients where I had a client back in late 2021 who had kept his same level of principal coverage for a really long time, maybe close to a decade. And then he kind of came into a job situation where his income went up. At the time, he kept the same amount of coverage and he was technically eligible for a little bit more. When the benefit update rider renewal came along, this 3-year anniversary came along, he just ditched it. He said he didn't want to do it. And so I said, well, they're going to remove the rider, which they did. He said he understood that, but he felt like he had adequate insurance and was not going to need more. But that was based on the way he saw the world at that particular point. Okay. Well, fast forward 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years later, things changed. He got a better job opportunity where he became a partner in a practice. His kids got older and the financial obligations actually increased. Who knew that, right? I've got older, kids go to college, they need cars, they have expenses. And he felt the burden of, number one, his income was higher, and number two, they needed it. And he wanted to increase his coverage again. So he comes back to him. He says, hey, Billy, I want to increase my disability coverage. I know I turned it down before, but I'd like to increase it. I I said, sure, we can do it. We have to redo the medical screening because the rider was off the policy. And he said, okay, no problem. Well, he filled out the form to have his coverage increased and the benefit update rider added back because he saw it as much more valuable now. And who knew, but apparently he had started seeing a neurologist about some headaches he was having. And he also started seeing a counselor because of the added stress. And both of those things combined to be a little more significant than I think he thought they were, or at least the medical records communicated something a little more significant. And Principal couldn't let him increase his coverage. So number one, he could not increase his coverage. And number two, he did not get the benefit update rider added onto his policy. So he had it. He was approved. He was healthy as a horse when he bought this policy a decade ago, let the benefit update rider go thinking it's not going to be an issue. And he went back to get it. He can't get it. And not only can he not get the rider back, but he can't increase his coverage. So he's stuck where he was. Now, hopefully things are going to improve and he can revisit and increase again, but we don't know. And so he added on risk that he didn't have to add on. And it was just because he, in that particular point, called him at a bad time, maybe on a bad day, at a time when he was just like, I'm done with insurance. I don't want any, I'm not going to need any more. That was a pretty short-sighted response because plans change and life changes and things change. So I just say that as kind of a cautionary tale. I've had this happen other times. We have plenty of clients that want to get more coverage, and for whatever reason, a health situation has cropped in, and it's not easy to get. It's much more complicated. You would want to make sure that you have this benefit update rider. If you have it, just provide the information. It's easy to get. I know it might, again, the timing may not be perfect, but I'll help you through that in any way I can and make that as easy as possible. And this information, once it's provided, we'll have the additional coverage to you, and you'll be able to decide from there. Hope you found this helpful. Hoping to provide some more oversight or input as far as how the benefit update rider works and why it's important. And feel free to text me or call me anytime. Be happy to arrange a conversation with you. My number is 704-270-2376. Again, 704-270-2376. Grateful for your time. Until we meet again, this is Billy Gwaltney. Take care.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.